Hello, in this video, I'm going to share with you my favorite towel hooks and how to hang them up easily. Now, sometimes people get a little bit intimidated about putting holes in the wall, even pictures, but more so things that they actually have to drill into the wall because they get a little bit overwhelmed and it seems a little bit complicated, but it doesn't have to be as long as you follow the proper steps. So let's get started and let me share with you my favorite towel hooks. I have these in every bathroom of my home. This particular bathroom had the bar towel racks, which I do not like. And the reason that I do not like the bar towel racks is because over time they get tugged on so much by putting the towels behind, pulling the towels off, that they begin to come out of the wall and can damage the sheetrock. And also, they're just a little more complicated to hang because you've got to get them level and you've got two pieces rather than one. This is my go-to towel hook. This came from Amazon, and I believe I got a pack of 4. I think it was for under $10. So it's a great deal. They have different finishes. You can hang towels on them easily. You can hang a robe on them easily. You can use them as your larger towel hooks, and you can also use them as your hand towel hooks, which I love. They're very versatile. You can use them for all kinds of different things. You could use them to hang on the wall and hang some baskets on if you have hair dryers and curling irons and things that you want to get off the counter or out of a drawer. And so you can use these for all kinds of different things, and they're just really cute and easy to hang up. So here's the first thing that you need to do when you begin to hang your towel hooks up. I have got a towel hook that I have already hung right here. Took me less than 10 minutes to hang. And I just love the way that the towels look on the hooks. It just looks like a spa luxurious feel. And I like a spa luxury feel on a budget. So what I have done with this is my intention is to just get this equal distance from the floor and right outside the shower door so that both of these hooks are easy to grab whatever is hanging on them while you're in the shower. So the first thing to keep in mind is make sure you're putting them in a place that makes sense. The second thing you need to keep in mind is you need to have a towel on hand that you will be using because you want to make sure that you don't hang them too low and that you don't hang them too high. And the only way to do that is to hold them up when they're not attached to your wall yet, drape a towel down, and see what's going to look best, because it really doesn't matter what it looks like without something on the hook. What matters is whatever you're going to hang on the hook looks good while it's on there. Now this one is a really good height. The towel drapes all the way down, not too high, not too low. So I'm also going to hang this one the same height. So what I did was I simply took my tape measure and I measured from the floor all the way up to the middle of the towel hook here, which was about 66 and a half. And then what I did was I grabbed my pencil and I went over and I determined where I wanted it on the wall. You can measure if you're wanting to get it in the middle of the wall. I was just basically wanting to get it in the middle of the shower door, which is right behind me. So you're basically gonna mark it off, and I would go basically, let's see, halfway. Make sure you're getting it all the way to the baseboard, all the way down. So that's 66 and a half is basically midpoint up. And I'm gonna make sure it's all the way at the bottom here. And 66 and a half is right here. Okay, and that's gonna be midpoint. That's gonna be midpoint of this towel hook. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, okay, if that's midpoint, I'm gonna put this over the midpoint, which is gonna be about right here. Okay, and then I'm gonna mark at the top of the of the hook. I'm going to mark it at the top so that I know where the top of the hook needs to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart. Now, if you have towel racks already that you want to take down, and you're like, I don't even know how to get these off the wall, there is this little bitty teeny tiny screw that you have to get a proper Allen wrench, and you just unscrew that tiny little screw. This one's actually in here pretty good. And if you'll just twist it, you'll see it coming out the bottom. And once you get it loose enough, if you already have a towel rack hanging on the wall, once you get this loose enough, this inside piece right here will fall out, or you'll be able to pull the cover off if it's hanging on the wall. And sometimes people, they have a hard time figuring out how to get this off. Okay, so I've got this screw out. So now I just need to pop this off. Wow, this one seems to be stuck. All right, so it is detached. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to hold this up to where the top of my hook, I'm going to put this at the top, and I am just going to put a little mark with a pencil where I need to attach this to the wall, because this is the piece that you're attaching. You're going to put a screw here, and you're going to put a screw here. Now, we have to determine if we need an anchor or not. I don't ever just put my drill together and start drilling a hole in the wall. And the reason is, if there is a stud behind this, which you got a 50-50 shot, and you start drilling a big hole for an anchor, and then you hit a stud, well, an anchor will not go into a stud. So you've just put a big hole in the wall that you didn't need. And you're also not going to be able to hang your towel hook where you wanted it, because you're going to have to move it and adjust. So you don't want to do that. So the first thing that I do before I start drilling is I get a small nail, and I get my hammer, and I'm just going to hammer this nail in, and I'm going to see if I hit a stud. Okay, well, that went all the way in the wall, and I didn't hit a stud. I actually did hit a stud on this one, which when you do hit a stud, that just saves you a step, because you don't have to use the anchor. You just drill, you just take the screws that came with your hook and you drill into the wall. So that would save us a step, but I'm kind of glad I didn't hit a stud, because I really want to show you how to do this. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to pull out your anchor. This is the anchor I'm using because it came with, and I'm going to figure out which drill bit. Now, I have a lot of drill bits, but I want to figure out which drill bit I need to use, because if you use a drill bit that is too large, then again, you're going to make an unnecessary hole, because you're not going to be able to put an anchor in a hole that is larger than the anchor, because it's not going to hold. So what I do normally is I err on the side of caution, and I normally just pick a drill bit that I could just fit straight down in here. Kind of fits snug, but that's what I want to do, because I can always make my hole bigger if it's not big enough, but I can't make it smaller. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use this drill bit. I probably could use one up a size, but I'm not going to chance that, because I don't like to put more holes in my wall than necessary. So what I'm going to do is I am going to drill a hole right here where I marked. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep drilling, and I mean, obviously that hole is not big enough, so I'm just going to kind of go in a circular motion to make that hole a little bigger. might take you a minute to get the right size, but don't be impatient. You just want to do small increments. And that is almost big enough. Now, you should not be able to push your anchor in the wall. I mean, you're going to have to use some power with a hammer. So be sure that you're not making your hole too big that you can just push your anchor in, because then it's not going to hold. So I think that's big enough. Also, one thing I'll tell you is, if your hole is too small and you try to hammer your anchor in the wall, it's going to crush, and there's a good chance you're not going to be able to pull it out. So you really need to make sure that the tip of your anchor can just sit right there at the end of the hole, and then you're going to start hammering. Okay, and I can see pretty quickly that this is going to go in nicely. Okay, so there's my first hole. Now, you can determine whether you need to put 2 anchors in or 1. Now, this calls for 2 screws here. So this is where we're going to put our screw. We're actually going to put the top one here and the bottom one here. Because this is a towel hook, and the heaviest thing that's going to be put on this is 1 towel. I do not feel the need to put 2 anchors in my wall. This 1 anchor will hold that. So I'm actually going to use 1 anchor and just screw this the second one into the drywall. And I'm confident that that's going to be sturdy enough. Now, if you were hanging a towel rack that had 2 ends that you were having to hold, I would put 2 anchors in both ends. Because again, those kind of racks get a lot of tug and a lot of push and pull and things like that on them, and they a lot of times come out of the wall. So I would be mindful of that in just determining how many anchors do you really need. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this in. Now, I love using my electric drill, and I've got an attachment that is like a screwdriver attachment, because you're going to need some power to get this in. So you can use a screwdriver if you want, but I just prefer my drill. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my backing on here, and I'm just screwing this in the wall. Okay, it should go in pretty easily. You want to get it snug, but you don't need to go crazy with it. All right. Now, since I'm not doing an anchor at the bottom, I'm simply just going to line this up straight up and down, and I'm going to put the screw right underneath here. And I'm just going to screw this in the wall, just straight into the sheetrock. Now, if you're using 1 anchor and not 2, make sure that you're putting your anchor in the top hole and not the bottom. All right. The last thing we need to do is attach this onto this. And when I screwed out this little screw earlier, I guess is what this is called, it actually fell on the floor, and I actually lost one earlier, so I can't use a towel hook that I bought because I lost this little teeny thing. So you want to make sure that you keep up with this, because if you lose it, your towel hook is no good. So what I'm going to do is I am going to screw this in just a tad. it's a little tricky because it's so small. Okay, I got that in just right there at the end. Now, I'm going to put this on just like that. Okay, and I'm going to get it straight up and down. And then I'm going to tighten this. And it might take a minute because you can't go all the way around with this with an Allen wrench. So I'm just going to, just a little bit at a time. This part's a little tedious. And I'm just going to tighten this until it's really tight. Because if not, then this will fall off of the bracket. Even though the bracket's on good, you've got to have the cover on good. Okay, that's on really good. All right, so I have got now my towel rack here. I've got a towel rack here. I'm going to do a towel here, and then I'm going to hang a robe here for easy access. And really, it's really that simple. So you just have to follow the steps. There's just a few things that you need to be aware and cautious about while you're doing it. But if you do it right, you can have this done in less than 10 minutes. Join me next time for the next design tip.